Good morning. So for some of you who don't know me, I'm Mary, Miss Mary for the kids, and this is our kids' portion of the service. So as Bethany has already said, this is the last Advent Sunday, and we've talked about what Advent means before. Advent is like something is coming. We're anticipating something. We're waiting for something. And waiting is hard, isn't it? I was thinking that for you kids, this is going to sound really strange, but when I was your age, when we wanted to have a conversation with somebody who lived far away, I would write a letter, put it in an envelope, stamp it, put it in the post office. Maybe a week would go by. They would get the letter, read it, maybe write an answer back, put it in the mail, come back to me. It would take 2 weeks maybe to just have a little connection with somebody who lived far away. And what do you guys do? It's like click, click. Maybe in 10 seconds you have a conversation that you've started and finished in 10 seconds. So there isn't a lot of waiting in that, is there? You can just do it right now. And when we wanted something needed something, whatever, we would have to wait till the store opened. We would have to get in the car or have our mom or dad driving us and go to the store and pick it up and wait in line and buy it and then bring it back home. But if you have Amazon Prime, you can sit in your chair and go, ding, 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 and it's on your doorstep the next day. That's crazy. So I think we've kind of lost a lot of the experience of waiting for things. But there's a lot of waiting in God's story and a lot of waiting in the Christmas story. I think we've talked about this before, kids, but I'm not sure if you remember this because it's not always talked about a lot. But back in like the Old Testament, so like before Jesus came, God used prophets. Do you remember that? We've talked about prophets before. And prophets would communicate to God's people, the Jewish people, what he wanted them to know. And he would use those prophets to talk to his people. And then they just kept being disobedient, right? They just kept not doing what he had told them they should be doing. So, God just stopped that for a while. It was like the silent treatment. And if you've ever been given the silent treatment, I remember in like junior high getting the silent treatment from a friend. And it's like, wow, that really bothers you, right? And so God let a lot of time pass and a lot of waiting to hear from him again, right? Not like a few years. 400 years, he let them wait to hear from him. That was a lot of waiting, right? And Mary, who had God's son, she really couldn't explain to people what had happened to her, right? They weren't going to believe her. So she had to do some waiting too. She had to wait until Jesus, who was her son, would show people that he was the Son of God. And in that waiting time, I think there were probably a lot of things said to Mary and said about Mary that weren't very nice, right? Because people didn't really understand that she was having God's son. So she had to do a lot of waiting until people understood who Jesus really was. And then the person I wanted to talk about today is another person who did a lot of waiting. His name was Simeon. And I read some scholars think he may have been 200 years old. I don't know. I don't know if he was that old. Was he Pastor Ian? Pastor Ian. I'm thinking even if he was 100 years old, he had to wait a very long time. So he felt rightly that he had heard from God that he was going to see the Messiah. He was going to see the Savior before he died. And he just kept waiting for that. And I'm thinking, if he was even 100 years old, I'm wondering if maybe by the time he was 50, he was thinking, is this really going to happen? 60, 70, 80. I mean, if he lived to be 200, imagine at like 150, he's thinking, did I hear right? Am I really going to see him? But I love Simeon's prayer. I just love that part. I've always loved his prayer. So it says that Simeon was going to the temple, and he felt God saying to him, go into the temple now. And it says, led by the Spirit, Simeon went into the temple, and when the parents, Mary and Joseph, brought the child Jesus into the temple to do for him what the law required, Simeon took the child in his arms, and he gave thanks to God. And this is his prayer. Now, Lord, you have kept your promise, and you may let your servant go in peace. With my own eyes I have seen your salvation, which you have prepared in the presence of all peoples. A light to reveal your will to the Gentiles, that was the people who weren't Jewish, and bring glory to your people, Israel. That was the Jewish people. And I just love that prayer, and I love that it was a reminder that God keeps his promises. He kept his promise to Simeon. And after all that waiting in the Christmas story, Simeon got to see Jesus before he died. And I'm sure he probably died fairly soon after that. I don't know. It just seems like that would fit. So Christmas reminds us a lot about waiting. We do gifts at Christmas because it sort of reminds us that Jesus is a gift that God gave us, a gift of salvation. For some of us, we like to wrap our gifts a little bit early and put them under the tree just because they look pretty. And so I did that for my grandchildren, and they came to visit yesterday. And then my 8-year-old grandson said, "Can I just open it now?" And we said, "No, you have to wait." "Can I just open it now?" So it's hard. It's hard to wait. And yet I think that God can teach us a lot of things in the time that we're waiting for something. I think God uses that time to teach us things and to show us more of who he is. And so we need to just try to be a little more patient in the waiting. And remember, as we're opening our gifts from each other this Christmas, that God has a gift for us that's the best gift of all, right? So this Advent is celebrating, and Christmas is celebrating when Jesus came the first time. But as we're lighting Advent candles and doing all of this, we're remembering that he's coming again, that we're looking now, we're waiting for him to come again. And while we're waiting, he gives us these gifts now even that these candles represent. So we've done some activities upstairs where it says hope. Jesus is our hope. He is the light in the darkness. He's our peace. He is love, and he is joy. He brings us all those things in the waiting for him to come again. Okay, so now Susan set a very high bar by getting the candles lit last week, and it's my turn, so little prayers for me would be great. We don't have a lot of candles. I mean, a lot of matches, so I can't make mistakes. Thank you very much.